Admiral Catherine Morrison stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of the United Defense Force headquarters, watching crystalline ships fill Earth's skies like a swarm of geometric fireflies. Their translucent hulls caught the sunlight, casting prismatic patterns across New York's skyline. Beautiful, if you could ignore the growing knot of dread in your stomach. Admiral, her XO, Commander David Reynolds, cleared his throat. The Alliance representatives are ready in the diplomatic chamber. Kate squared her shoulders, smoothing down her midnight blue uniform. 6 hours since first contact, and already the pit in her stomach told her this wasn't the momentous occasion humanity had dreamed about. The Alliance vessels had appeared simultaneously over every major city on Earth, their deployment too precise, too calculated. They knew exactly where to find us. The diplomatic chamber hummed with nervous energy as Kate entered. Holographic displays showed similar scenes playing out in Beijing, Moscow, London, and dozens of other capitals. At the chamber's center, 3 Alliance representatives stood in environmental suits that looked more ceremonial than functional. Their leader, a tall, willowy being with iridescent skin, turned all 4 of its eyes toward her. Admiral Morrison. It spoke through some kind of translator, its voice carrying an artificial smoothness. I am Nexus Guide Verith, speaker for the Star Alliance Council. We trust our arrival has given your species adequate time to process our existence. Kate's diplomatic training kicked in. Welcome to Earth, Nexus Guide. I speak for Earth's United Defense Force. In concert with our global leadership, we've long hoped for this moment. Have you? Verith's head tilted at an unsettling angle. How interesting that you phrase it thus. Hope, such an imprecise emotion. This brings us to the purpose of our arrival. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. On the holographic displays, Kate noticed other Alliance representatives beginning identical speeches worldwide. Synchronized. Choreographed. Wrong. Humanity, Verith continued, has been evaluated extensively. Your species has been under observation since your first radio transmissions. The Star Alliance maintains order across 12,000 systems through careful management of civilizational advancement. Species must develop along acceptable parameters. Acceptable parameters. Kate kept her voice level, even as alarms rang in her head. I'm not sure I understand. Verith's secondary eyes blinked in sequence. Your species exhibits dangerous levels of emotional variance and cognitive adaptability. Your responses to stimuli cannot be reliably predicted by our most advanced modeling systems. This presents an unacceptable risk to galactic stability. The other 2 representatives moved in perfect synchronization, activating devices that projected a galactic map. Earth appeared marked in pulsing red, along with a handful of other systems scattered across the spiral arms. Therefore, Verith's voice carried the weight of eons. You are presented with a choice. Accept permanent quarantine within your solar system, never to venture beyond its boundaries, or face immediate extinction. The Star Alliance does not allow dangerous variables into its equation. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs from the human officials present. Kate's mind raced, processing implications. The Alliance's ships hadn't arrived in peace. They'd come to establish a containment perimeter. How long do we have to decide? Kate asked, buying time, analyzing the Alliance representatives' every move. Planetary leadership has 24 Earth hours to submit their acceptance of quarantine. Rejection will be taken as choosing the alternative option. Verith's translator couldn't quite mask the cold certainty in its tone. As the representatives prepared to depart, Kate noticed something odd. Despite their supposed superiority, they moved with an almost mechanical precision. No wasted motion, no natural variance. Her years of combat training screamed that she was watching beings operating on pure programming rather than instinct. Back in her office, Kate's secure terminal lit up with a classified file. Dr. Marcus Bennett, head of quantum research, had found something in the Alliance's transmission patterns. Their entire communication network operated on perfectly predictable quantum states, a theoretical impossibility according to human physics. "They're terrified of us," Kate whispered, the revelation hitting her. "Not because we're dangerous, but because we're truly unpredictable." She began composing orders to every UDF installation worldwide. Humanity wouldn't bow to quarantine, but they also wouldn't fight the Alliance on its terms. The stars had finally spoken to humanity, and their message was clear: conform or die. But if there was one thing humans never did well, it was following ultimatums. As she watched the crystalline ships through her window, Kate Morrison allowed herself a grim smile. The Alliance had made a crucial mistake. They'd shown their hand first. Dr. Marcus Bennett hadn't slept in 36 hours, but the quantum readings on his holographic display made his exhaustion irrelevant. He ran the analysis for the 12th time, each result more impossible than the last. Behind him, the quantum research lab at Brookhaven hummed with activity as the world's best scientists worked to understand their alien visitors. "You need to see this," he called out to Admiral Morrison, who had just arrived for her briefing. The dark circles under her eyes suggested she hadn't slept either. Kate leaned over his shoulder, watching streams of data flow across the display. "Make it make sense for someone who doesn't speak quantum physics, Marcus. Look at these patterns." He pointed to a series of oscillating waves. "This is normal quantum activity from various species on Earth: humans, animals, even plants. See how chaotic and unpredictable the waves are. That's normal. Quantum states should be inherently uncertain." He swiped to another display. "This is the Alliance's quantum signature. It's wrong. Perfect sine waves. Completely predictable. They've somehow engineered their entire civilization to eliminate quantum uncertainty." Kate's eyes narrowed. "And that's why they can't predict us. Because we're still connected to this natural quantum state. It's more than that." Marcus pulled up a third display, showing brain scans. "Human consciousness itself seems to actively influence quantum states. We're not just unpredictable. We're actively manipulating quantum reality without even knowing it. The Alliance species can't do this. They've lost or engineered away the ability." Before Kate could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Dr. Sarah Rodriguez, their xenobiologist, burst into the lab, tablet in hand. "Admiral, you need to see this. We've decoded more of the Alliance's historical database. They've done this before." The main screen filled with images that turned Kate's stomach. A beautiful crystalline world, its cities in ruins, a species that looked almost feline, their bodies preserved in stasis pods. Another world, its surface covered in massive impact craters. "The Nahiri," Sarah pointed to the feline species. "They chose mass stasis over submission. The Krell," she indicated the cratered world, "chose extinction. Both species showed similar quantum patterns to humans. There are others, at least 6 more quarantine species we found records of." Marcus straightened up, his tired eyes suddenly alert. "Admiral, these quantum patterns we're detecting, they're not just random. They're forming coherent signals, like a quantum communications network we never knew we were broadcasting on. If these other species have the same ability, we might not be as alone as the Alliance wants us to think," Kate finished. She turned to her tactical officer, Lieutenant James Chen. "What's the status of the containment fleet?" James projected an orbital map. "They're deploying in layers, like a net closing in. But there are gaps, points where their movements are so perfectly calculated that we could theoretically slip through if we were just random enough in our approach." "Random enough," Marcus muttered, turning back to his quantum displays. "Or quantum enough." Kate watched the Alliance ships moving in their precise patterns, a plan forming. "Marcus, could we use this quantum ability of ours deliberately? Install quantum sensors on our ships?" "Maybe," he replied, already running simulations. "The real question is, what happens when we do? We'd be venturing into scientific territory that shouldn't be possible according to the Alliance's understanding of physics." Sarah cleared her throat. "There's something else in the database. The Alliance's precognitive species. They report experiencing what they call dark spots, complete blindness in their predictions whenever they try to predict human actions. We terrify them because we're literally impossible according to their science. Kate allowed herself a small smile. Then we'll be impossible. Marcus, you have 12 hours to prepare a prototype quantum drive. Sarah, find me everything you can about those other quarantine species. James, I want our fastest stealth vessels ready for retrofit. As her team scattered to their tasks, Kate studied the tactical display. The Alliance's containment fleet moved in perfect, predictable patterns, like a mathematical equation made real. But mathematics had always included imaginary numbers, chaos theory, and quantum uncertainty. Perhaps it was time to teach the galaxy that perfection wasn't found in rigid order, but in the beautiful unpredictability of life itself. In her pocket, her quantum-enabled phone vibrated with an impossible signal, a pattern that shouldn't exist according to Alliance science. Someone out there in the quarantine zones was reaching out, and they were using the one frequency the Alliance could never monitor: human chaos. The quantum receiver pulsed with an ethereal blue light in the darkened lab, its sporadic patterns matching no known form of communication. Kate watched as Marcus made another adjustment to the improvised device they'd built from modified Alliance tech and human intuition. "There," Marcus whispered, as though speaking too loudly might shatter their tenuous connection. "That signal's definitely artificial. The quantum signature matches what we detected earlier, but it's stronger now." The holographic display erupted into a cascade of shifting patterns that gradually coalesced into a humanoid form. The figure was tall and elegant, with silvery skin and eyes that seemed to catch light that wasn't there. When it spoke, its words carried the weight of centuries. "Earth vessel, we are Vardashi. Like you, we refuse to be caged." The figure's voice resonated with an almost musical quality. "I am First Speaker Lyra, leader of the Free Vardashi enclaves. We have waited long for another species capable of quantum resonance." Kate stepped forward. "Admiral Catherine Morrison, Earth Defense Force. I take it you've had run-ins with the Alliance before." Lyra's image flickered with what might have been bitter amusement. "Run-ins. They tried to erase us from history itself. 3 centuries ago, our civilization spanned 12 systems. Now we hide in the spaces between their precious order, surviving through the very quantum chaos they fear." Marcus couldn't contain himself. "How did you maintain your quantum abilities? We've seen records of other species being forced to choose between extinction or submission." "We chose a third path," Lyra replied. "When they came with their ultimatum, we appeared to submit. But secretly, we had discovered something about Alliance control. Their psychic manipulation requires predictable quantum states to function. They can't control what they can't predict." The implications hit Kate like a thunderbolt. Their entire society is built on perfect prediction. That's why they're so afraid of quantum uncertainty. It makes their control impossible. Precisely. Lyra's image stepped closer, examining Kate with ancient eyes. Their perfect galactic society requires every mind to operate like a computer, processing reality through their approved algorithms. But human minds, like Vardashi, dance in quantum probability. Every choice you make ripples through their predictions like a stone through glass. Sarah burst into the lab, tablet in hand. "Admiral, we've decoded more Alliance communications. They're not just containing us. They're preparing to implement something called the Harmony Protocol across all quarantine zones." Lyra's image flickered violently. "No, we'd heard rumors, but not so soon. The Harmony Protocol isn't containment. It's forced quantum realignment. They mean to rewrite the quantum signatures of every living thing in the quarantine zones, making us predictable by burning away what makes us unique." Kate's hands clenched. "How long do we have?" "Their fleet will be in position within 15 standard days," Lyra answered. "But we have advantages they don't expect. The Vardashi have spent centuries mapping quantum corridors through their territory, paths that exist in probability rather than space. With your nascent quantum abilities and our experience, we could move right through their lines." Kate finished. Hit them where they never see us coming. Marcus looked up from his instruments. The retrofitted ships are ready. We've installed quantum sensors based on the patterns we detected in human brain activity. Completely invisible to Alliance science, because they don't believe it's possible. Then we have a choice to make, Kate addressed the room. We can try to hold out here, hope for mercy from an enemy that fears our very existence, or we can take the fight to them, join forces with the Vardashi, and show the galaxy that chaos isn't something to be feared. Lyra's image smiled. You speak like a Vardashi, Admiral Morrison. Perhaps that's why the Alliance fears humans so much. You understand instinctively what took us centuries to learn. The universe isn't meant to be a solved equation. As if to emphasize her words, the quantum receiver picked up new signals. More voices in the dark, speaking from other quarantine zones. Species that had hidden rather than submit, waiting for a moment like this. Kate looked at her team, saw the same determination in their eyes. Send word to every resistance cell on Earth. Operation Quantum Shadow begins now. It's time to show the Alliance that they can't predict what they don't understand, and humanity will never be understood by those who fear uncertainty. In orbit, the first quantum-modified ships slipped their moorings, vanishing into probability itself. The underground resistance wasn't just beginning. It was about to rewrite the laws of what the Alliance thought possible. Operation Ghostwalker began like a dream, silent, surreal, and impossible according to Alliance physics. The UDF Wayfarer, humanity's first quantum-modified warship, slipped through space-time like oil through water, leading a flotilla of 30 vessels through corridors of pure probability. At the helm, Kate watched the quantum navigation display where normal space appeared as rigid geometric patterns, while the human-designed quantum drive carved impossible paths between them. Alliance monitoring station ahead. Lieutenant Chen reported from Tactical. Their sensor grid is just as the Vardashi intel described. Perfect crystalline lattices of predictable quantum states. And that's their weakness, Kate smiled. They're scanning for ships moving through normal space. They can't detect what their sensors say is impossible. Status of the fleet. All ships maintaining quantum coherence, Marcus replied from his station, where he monitored the experimental drives. The Vardashi algorithms are meshing perfectly with human brainwave patterns. We're literally riding our own unpredictability. The Alliance station grew larger on their screens, a massive crystalline structure that served as both monitoring post and enforcement hub for their quarantine zones. Its faceted surface reflected starlight in predictable mathematical patterns. Remember, Kate addressed the fleet through quantum-encrypted channels. We're not here to match their firepower. Hit them like a nightmare, something their logical minds can't process. Execute Pattern Chaos 1. The human fleet split into seemingly random groups, each taking advantage of local quantum fluctuations that the Alliance's rigid sensors couldn't detect. The Wayfarer led the first strike, emerging from quantum space directly inside the station's defensive perimeter. Alliance communications erupted in confusion, their perfect predictions shattered by ships appearing where their equations said nothing could exist. The station's crystalline defense ships moved to respond, but their tactics were mathematically perfect and therefore perfectly predictable. They're deploying in standard Fibonacci spirals, Chen reported, exactly as expected from their tactical databases. Then let's show them some human mathematics, Kate ordered. Execute the Mandelbrot maneuver. The human fleet moved in patterns based on chaos theory and fractal mathematics, unpredictable yet structured, random yet purposeful. Alliance ships, programmed for perfect geometric formations, couldn't adapt to enemies that turned probability itself into a weapon. The Wayfarer's quantum-enhanced weapons struck with impossible accuracy, targeting nodes that the Vardashi had identified as crucial to the Alliance's control network. Each hit sent cascades of uncertainty through the station's systems, creating gaps in their perfect predictive models. Admiral. Sarah's voice cut through the tactical chatter. I'm detecting massive quantum fluctuations from the station. Their crew, Their quantum signatures are destabilizing. On the main screen, Kate watched Alliance crew members stagger and collapse as their artificially regulated quantum states encountered true uncertainty for the first time in generations. The sight gave her pause. They weren't here to slaughter beings who'd been enslaved by their own rigid society. All ships, switch to quantum pulse weapons only, she ordered. Disable, don't destroy. Show them there's another way. The battle shifted to a precise operation of targeted quantum pulses, each disrupting the Alliance's artificial order without causing permanent harm. Ships disabled, crews temporarily incapacitated, but all recoverable. Station Control Center breached, Chen reported. Quantum infiltration teams are in. Kate nodded to Marcus. Do it. Marcus activated the quantum virus they'd prepared. A program that didn't exist according to Alliance computer science, written in the language of uncertainty itself. Throughout the station, rigid quantum controls began to dissolve, allowing natural chaos to seep back into the minds of the Alliance crew. Message buoys away, Sarah confirmed. Every Alliance communication network in this sector will receive proof of their first defeat, along with our offer. Join us in embracing uncertainty, or watch your perfect order crumble. As the human fleet prepared to return to quantum space, Kate received an unexpected transmission. An Alliance officer, his quantum signature already showing signs of natural variation, spoke with trembling voice. What is this feeling? All these possibilities. Is this how you always see the universe? That's freedom, Kate replied. The freedom to choose, to change, to be uncertain. Tell your leaders, humanity and the Vardashi aren't your enemies. We're your wake-up call. The galaxy wasn't meant to be a solved equation. The flotilla vanished back into quantum space, leaving behind a station full of Alliance personnel experiencing true free will for the first time. Their perfect order had been shattered not by superior firepower, but by the introduction of something their rigid minds had forgotten how to process: choice. In the aftermath, quantum communications lit up across the quarantine zones. Other imprisoned species had witnessed the impossible. The Alliance's perfect defense penetrated not by force, but by uncertainty itself. The Resistance had just proved that humanity's greatest weakness in the Alliance's eyes was, in fact, their greatest strength. 3 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean, Kate stood before a structure that shouldn't exist. The massive door, covered in swirling patterns that seemed to shift when you weren't looking directly at them, had survived millions of years waiting for someone with the right quantum signature to find it. That someone, apparently, was human. The patterns match precursor script we found in other locations, Marcus explained, his hand hovering over the luminescent symbols. But this is different. The quantum resonance is off the charts, and it's responding to our presence. The discovery of the underwater facility had come after their successful raid on the Alliance station. Decoded data had pointed to locations the Alliance marked as probability anomalies, places where their perfect predictions broke down entirely. They'd found this one purely by accident when a quantum-modified sensor detected an impossible energy signature. Sarah studied her readings with growing excitement. These energy patterns, they're identical to human brain waves during moments of inspiration or creative thinking. It's like the facility was designed to respond to human consciousness itself. Or maybe, Kate suggested, human consciousness was designed to respond to it. The implications hung heavy in the pressurized air of the deep-sea facility. Before anyone could respond, the door's pattern suddenly flared with brilliant light. Quantum energy cascaded through the chamber as the massive portal began to open, responding to their mere presence. By all known physics, this shouldn't be possible, Marcus whispered, watching his instruments go haywire. The quantum interactions here, they're like a more advanced version of what we naturally do. As if someone encoded our quantum abilities into our DNA millions of years ago, Sarah finished. The precursors didn't just vanish. They seeded themselves through time, waiting for their descendants to evolve. The chamber beyond the door took their breath away. Holographic displays sprang to life, showing star maps and quantum frequency patterns that danced in perfect harmony with human brainwaves. At the center stood a crystalline matrix unlike anything they'd seen in Alliance technology. Organic, fluid, alive with possibility. "Admiral," Lieutenant Chen's voice crackled over the comm, "we're detecting massive energy spikes from similar structures worldwide. Whatever you just activated down there, it's not alone." Kate approached the central matrix, drawn by an intuition she couldn't explain. As she got closer, the crystals began to resonate with her presence, creating harmonics that felt familiar yet ancient. Images flooded her mind. The precursors, a species that had mastered quantum reality itself, seeing the rigid order of the early universe and recognizing the need for chaos, for creativity, for true free will. They didn't just disappear, she breathed, understanding flowing through her like the quantum energies themselves. They engineered their own evolution, spreading their consciousness across space and time, waiting to be reborn in species that could embrace both order and chaos. Marcus's instruments suddenly lit up with urgent readings. "Admiral, the facility is accessing the quantum network. It's connecting to every piece of precursor tech in the galaxy, including systems we never knew existed within Alliance territory." The holographic displays shifted, showing vast networks of dormant precursor technology hidden throughout Alliance space, systems that had been waiting millions of years for the right quantum signature to activate them. This isn't just a facility, Sarah realized, reading ancient data as it streamed past. It's a key to the entire precursor network. The Alliance built their perfect order on top of systems they never truly understood, because they couldn't. You need human-level quantum chaos to even perceive these connections. Before Kate could respond, a new quantum transmission cut through their secure channels. Lyra, the Vardishi leader, her voice urgent with discovery. "Admiral Morrison, are you seeing this? The precursor sites in our territory just activated. The patterns, they match ancient Vardishi genetic markers. We weren't just another quarantine species. Like humanity, we're part of their plan." Kate watched the quantum data flow through the matrix, showing connections and possibilities that the Alliance's rigid physics said were impossible. They seeded the galaxy with their descendants, knowing the Alliance would try to impose perfect order. And now we're reaching critical mass, enough quantum-capable species awakening to challenge that order. The facility hummed with power, its systems fully awake for the first time in millions of years. On the displays, more quantum signatures appeared. Other hidden species, other descendants of the precursors, all activated by humanity's discovery. "The Alliance fears chaos," Kate said, placing her hand on the crystal matrix, feeling the power of ages flow through her quantum-touched DNA. "Let's show them why they should have embraced it instead." The Alliance Council chamber on Nexus Prime had never witnessed disorder in its 12,000 years of existence. Until today, quantum distortions rippled through the crystalline architecture as council members broke into opposing factions, their perfect harmony shattered by the implications of humanity's discoveries. High Counselor Verith, his iridescent skin now dulled with stress, faced the growing rebellion within his own ranks. "Order. We cannot allow quantum chaos to infect our society. The human threat must be contained." "Contained." Zereth stepped forward, her insectoid form vibrating with barely controlled emotion. An unprecedented display in the council chamber. "Like we contained the Vardishi. The Nahiri. How many species have we condemned for the crime of being what we once were?" The chamber's quantum sensors flared as more council members sided with Zereth. The recent human attacks had done more than just defeat Alliance forces. They had introduced uncertainty into minds engineered for perfect prediction. Already, some Alliance citizens were showing signs of quantum awakening, their neural patterns shifting back toward natural chaos. "The humans didn't attack us," Zereth continued, activating a holographic display of the recent battles. "They disabled our forces without casualties. They offered our people choice instead of destruction. Meanwhile, we prepare the Harmony Protocol, a weapon to destroy everything that makes a species unique. In orbit above Earth, Kate received Zur-Eth's encrypted quantum transmission of the Council proceedings. Beside her, Marcus analyzed the data streaming from their activated precursor network. "The Alliance is fracturing exactly as we hoped," Kate observed. "Their perfect unity can't survive contact with true quantum consciousness." "Admiral." Lieutenant Chen's voice cut through the command center. "Multiple Alliance warships just quantum jumped into the system. But something's wrong with their formation." The tactical display showed Alliance ships moving in patterns that defied their usual geometric precision. As they watched, 3 Harbinger-class destroyers broke formation entirely, their quantum signatures fluctuating wildly. "This is Commander Nelith of the Alliance vessel, Eternal Truth." A new voice transmitted on all frequencies. We stand with Zur-Eth. The Harmony Protocol must not be deployed. We've seen the truth in human chaos, the beauty in uncertainty." Before Kate could respond, proximity alarms blared. A massive Alliance dreadnought emerged from hyperspace, its weapons already charging. The ship's quantum signature remained rigidly ordered, a vessel still under hardline control. "Traitors!" Supreme Commander Xar's voice boomed across all frequencies. "The human corruption spreads. You leave us no choice. Deploy the prototype." The dreadnought's hull split open, revealing a weapon that bent reality itself. Kate's quantum sensors screamed warnings as space-time distorted around the device. "It's a quantum nullification field," Marcus shouted, reading the impossible energy signatures. "They're trying to force local space-time into perfect mathematical order." Kate's mind raced. The weapon represented everything the Alliance feared about chaos, everything they'd spent millennia trying to eliminate. But their fear had blinded them to a fundamental truth about the universe. "All ships, execute pattern uncertainty prime," she ordered, "and get me a quantum link to Zur-Eth's faction. I have an idea." The human fleet moved in seemingly random patterns, each ship's quantum drive creating ripples of possibility through spacetime. The rebelling Alliance ships, their crews beginning to remember their species' original connection to quantum chaos, followed suit. In the council chamber, Zur-Eth received Kate's transmission and smiled, an expression her species hadn't used in thousands of years. "Watch, brothers and sisters. Watch what happens when we remember who we were meant to be." The nullification field activated, trying to impose perfect order on local spacetime. But it faced something the Alliance had forgotten in their quest for prediction: the fundamental nature of reality itself. Quantum uncertainty wasn't a flaw to be corrected. It was the foundation of existence. "All ships, broadcast your quantum signatures at full power," Kate commanded. "Show them what the precursors knew. Order and chaos can't exist without each other." The combined quantum emissions of human, Vardashi, and awakened Alliance ships created a cascade effect through the nullification field. Instead of imposing order, the weapon began to resonate with the natural quantum state of the universe itself. In the council chamber, more members stood with Zur-Eth as their rigid quantum programming began to dissolve. Vareth watched in horror as everything he believed about reality crumbled before him. "You see now," Zur-Eth addressed the council. "The humans aren't our enemies. They're our reminder. The precursors seeded the galaxy not with corrupted species, but with the key to our salvation. The question isn't whether to contain humanity. It's whether we're ready to remember what it means to be truly alive." Operation Quantum Dawn began with a whisper across the neural network. In command centers buried beneath every quarantine zone, quantum computers spun up to frequencies that Alliance science claimed would tear reality apart. Kate stood in the heart of the Pacific Precursor Facility, surrounded by holographic displays showing thousands of dormant sites awakening simultaneously. "All resistance cells report ready," Marcus announced, his hands dancing across the crystalline control interface. "The Vardashi quantum network is synchronized with our own. We're detecting quantum signatures from species we didn't even know existed, all of them starting to remember." Sarah's voice carried both excitement and concern. The Alliance hardliners have begun deploying Harmony Protocol ships to every quarantine zone. They're willing to lobotomize half the galaxy to maintain their perfect order. Then it's time they learned what the precursors really built, Kate replied, placing her hand on the central crystal matrix. The facility hummed with power that had waited millions of years for this moment. Execute Dawn Protocol. Across the galaxy, precursor sites blazed to life. Not weapons, as the Alliance had feared, but nodes in a vast quantum consciousness network. Each site began broadcasting frequencies that resonated with the original quantum signatures of every sapient species, the patterns the Alliance had spent millennia trying to suppress. In orbit, the battle reached its climax. The hardliner fleet, led by Supreme Commander Xar, deployed their quantum nullification weapons in a desperate bid to maintain control. Space itself seemed to crack under the strain of competing forces, perfect order versus quantum chaos. Admiral, Lieutenant Chen called out, "We're detecting massive quantum fluctuations in Alliance territory. Their suppression fields are failing. Their entire civilization is starting to remember." Kate watched as the precursor network revealed its true purpose. Not just a communication system or a weapon, but a key to unlocking genetic memory buried deep in the quantum signature of every species. The Alliance hadn't evolved naturally into their rigid state. They'd been engineered, part of an experiment started by the precursors themselves. "My God," Marcus whispered, reading the data streams. The precursors. They split their own species. One half became the Alliance, engineered for perfect order. The other half scattered their quantum consciousness through time, seeding species like humanity and the Vardeshi. They wanted to see which path was right. Not which path was right, Kate corrected, understanding flowing through her quantum-touched mind. They wanted to prove both paths needed each other, order and chaos, certainty and possibility, all part of the same cosmic dance. On her tactical display, she watched Alliance ships stuttering in space as their crews experienced quantum awakening. The rigid programming of generations cracked, allowing buried genetic memory to surface. Some ships turned on their former allies, while others simply stopped fighting, their crews overwhelmed by the return of true consciousness. "We're receiving a priority transmission," Sarah announced. It's from the Alliance core worlds themselves." The holographic display shifted, showing scenes from across Alliance space. Citizens were awakening from their quantum suppression, experiencing emotion and uncertainty for the first time in millennia. Some panicked, but others embraced the change with joy they'd forgotten how to feel. Supreme Commander Xar's dreadnought made one final attempt to stop the awakening. His ship's nullification field reached maximum power, trying to impose perfect order on reality itself. But he faced the fundamental truth the precursors had discovered. The universe required both order and chaos to exist. "All ships, execute final resonance," Kate commanded. Every human and Vardeshi vessel, along with their awakened Alliance allies, broadcast their quantum signatures in perfect chaos harmony. The nullification field tried to impose order, but instead became a conductor for the very chaos it sought to destroy. In a flash of quantum energy, Xar's dreadnought disappeared, not destroyed, but transformed. When it reappeared, its rigid crystalline structure had become organic, flowing, alive with possibility. On its bridge, Xar himself experienced the first genuine uncertainty of his existence. "The experiment is over," Kate broadcast on all frequencies. "The precursors didn't want us to choose between order and chaos. They wanted us to prove that both were necessary. Look around you. The most beautiful patterns in nature come from the dance between order and randomness." Through the quantum network, she felt the response, not just from humans, or Vardeshi, or awakened Alliance members, but from countless species touching the quantum realm for the first time in eons. The galaxy itself seemed to sing with newfound harmony, not the rigid frequencies of enforced order, but the complex, beautiful resonance of chaos and order intertwined. 1 month after Operation Quantum Dawn, the Great Hall of the Precursor Facility hosted a gathering unprecedented in galactic history. Representatives from over 1,000 species, former Alliance members, quarantined races, and newly awakened civilizations converged beneath its crystal spires. The quantum network hummed with possibility, translating not just words but concepts, emotions, and quantum states between vastly different forms of consciousness. Kate stood at the central podium, still adjusting to the changes in her own quantum perception. Like many humans, her natural abilities had grown stronger since the activation of the precursor network. She could now see the quantum signatures of those around her, beautiful, complex patterns unique to each species, yet harmonizing in ways the old Alliance would have found impossible. "The galaxy stands at a crossroads," she began, her words carrying through both conventional and quantum channels. "Not between order and chaos, but between fear and understanding. The precursors didn't split their civilization to prove which path was right. They did it to show us that both paths were incomplete on their own." Former High Counselor Verith, his iridescent skin now shimmering with natural quantum variations, stepped forward. The rigid certainty that had defined him was gone, replaced by something more complex and alive. "For millennia, we thought we were protecting the galaxy from chaos," he admitted. "We forgot that our own ancestors engineered us as only half of a greater experiment. In seeking perfect order, we became trapped in a prison of our own making." Zereth clicked her mandibles in agreement, the gesture carrying waves of quantum emotion that everyone in the hall could now perceive. "And now we remember what it means to truly live, to face uncertainty not with fear, but with wonder." Marcus approached the central crystal matrix, displaying the latest data from their combined research teams. The precursor network isn't just a communication system. It's a bridge between different states of consciousness, order and chaos, certainty and possibility, all working in harmony. The holographic displays showed the transformation spreading across former Alliance space, rigid crystalline architecture flowing into organic forms that combined mathematical precision with natural chaos. Ships that once moved in perfect formation now danced through space in patterns that seemed random yet achieved greater efficiency than ever before. "But the greatest change," Sarah added, "is in how we see each other. The quantum awakening didn't just restore lost abilities. It showed us that diversity isn't a threat to unity. It's essential for it." Lieutenant Chen's tactical display showed the former quarantine zones dissolving as ships of all species freely traversed the galaxy. The borders that had divided order from chaos were disappearing, replaced by a new kind of space where both could coexist. "The precursors knew that someday we would face this choice," Kate continued. "Not to choose between their two paths, but to reunite them. They seeded the galaxy with both order and chaos, knowing that only by embracing both could we reach our full potential." Lyra, the Vardishi leader, stepped forward with a proposal that would have been unthinkable months ago. "We call for the establishment of the Quantum Concordat, not to replace the Alliance, but to transform it. A covenant that recognizes both the value of order and the necessity of chaos." The hall erupted in a symphony of quantum resonances as species after species signaled their agreement. The rigid hierarchy of the old Alliance gave way to something new, a fluid, organic organization that could adapt and grow while maintaining harmony. "We are all children of the precursors," Kate declared, "whether we followed the path of order or chaos. Now we can be what they intended, a civilization that embraces the full spectrum of existence." As if in response, the precursor facility pulsed with energy, its quantum networks connecting every mind in the galaxy in a moment of shared consciousness. In that instant, each being experienced the reality of every other. The beauty of mathematical precision, the thrill of uncertainty, the strength found in their differences, and the harmony possible when order and chaos dance together. The new age began not with a bang or a whisper, but with a quantum resonance that rippled through space and time. Humanity had not just challenged the Star Alliance, they had helped transform it into something greater than either order or chaos alone could achieve. In her quarters later that night, Kate watched Earth glowing blue and perfect through the facility's crystal walls. A quantum message from Marcus appeared in her mind, carrying an emotion that the old alliance would have never permitted: hope. "Ready to help build something new?" he asked. Kate smiled, feeling the quantum patterns of a trillion minds working in beautiful, chaotic harmony across the galaxy. "We already are."